Alright guys, got another style video for you here. In this video we're going to be doing a field install of a filter mist. I ordered this from Wesley and got it in a couple weeks ago, and I'm now getting around to installing it. Thought it would be a good video. This is something you'd have to do if you order a machine with the filter mist. It is a field install option. So we'll go through all of that. There is a couple of things when you get to the machine that we'll go over on looking at your ladder file on where to connect it and you know, for the inputs to the outputs for the alarm and whatnot. So with that we'll get into it. We'll go over what comes into the kit, and then we will head over to the machine and start the install. All right, let's go through what comes with the install kit. We'll start with the small pieces, and then we'll take apart the actual filter itself. So you get a drain hose. This is for the captured coolant to coalesce and run back into your coolant tank or inside the enclosure. Get a giant O-ring gasket seal to obviously seal the unit to the top of your enclosure. You get some wiring harness. We won't be using this on my machine. We're gonna have to wire it directly into the panel. My machine is a newer machine and does not have a spot for this square connector. Yes, we could cut one, but it would be way more work than really what it's worth. You get a box with small parts, just the standoffs to mount the filter to the cabinet. This is the contactor and alarm. We can get it out here. So this is a Siemens contactor, breaker, and an alarm assembly here. So, and that's all pre-wired, which is nice. It might not come this way in all kits, but in this one it did. So we're lucky with that. And then comes with a manual. This does have a generic install. We will not be following that one. We will be using this one mainly. This was done by Chuck Kovac over at Sterling Machine and Design. And it's pretty good. It's a pretty good write-up on doing it. There is a couple of things in here, depending on the age of your machine, it will be different than what his instructions call out. But I'll show you, like I mentioned in the ladder file, how to make sure that you're connecting the alarm and the other wires to the correct spots. So the nice thing about this is it comes with a printable template to lay on your machine to know where to drill the holes, cut the large hole. You can scale this up. He tells you exactly how to scale it up and what ratio to use it at. So very nice job, Chuck. This is a good, you know, a good give back to the community. So I'll put a link in the description to his website. He's got some pretty cool tools over there and stuff that he makes. Plus I'll put a download link, a direct download link for this, you know, this document, so you can get it when you do your machine. As far as, and before we get into taking apart the filter, so as far as tools and stuff required, it's just basic tools, basic hand tools. The only thing that you're going to need that you might not have is a 6-inch hole saw. You can use a jigsaw to cut the opening. I chose to, you know, pick up a hole saw. I have another, believe it or not, I have another project that I might be using this on, so I just went ahead and got it. All right, so here's it separated apart. This is the part that's going to be mounted on top, right? And this is the drum assembly here. This collects the coolant. As it's spinning, and it'll bleed it back down this drain hole here. Draws it up through this filter assembly. It's like a tornado in here, and it'll come around and it will bleed the coolant back in that coalesces in here back into the machine. This is the motor motor impeller assembly. There's a little air filter up here at the top. And then down here, let's tip this over. You can see here's the impeller, right? So this spins quite fast, causes the vacuum, draws the mist into this impeller, slings it to the outside, filters it through this media, and then it spits it out into the drum assembly. Pretty cool design. Been around for a long, long time, so. All right, so you can see on Chuck's schematic here, his alarm input is input number 26. Now that might be correct for your machine. I know it's not for mine, and I'm gonna show you guys how to look this up because you're gonna need to verify that. My machine is a little bit earlier, so it's wired a little different than some of the later machines. Like every manufacturing company, SYIL's no different. They have iterations, stuff changed, they move stuff around, whatever, right? But it's very critical that you check where that alarm input is. So we're gonna need to look at the ladder file to do that. So you're gonna go to Settings, PLC Status, PLC Ladder, right? So you can see the ladder file here. Now I happen to know, obviously I've looked, it's route line number 276. So let's page down, it's about 276, like I've said. All right, 272, right? Oil mist separator control. Let's go down and bring it up, right? So here's the logic that controls the alarm. And if you see down here, you can read over here, oil mist separator alarm. You can see the alarm flag over here. So that says it's input number 22. Chuck's was input 26, I believe. Yep, 26. On this machine, my machine, it's input 22. So that is critical. You need to double check that to make sure what the input is and make sure that you hook the alarm for the mist separator up to the correct input. Now the next thing, and we'll go around and back here in just a second, but the next thing we also need to do is find the output, the control for it. And we'll do that in just a second, but first, let me take you around back and I'll show you the alarm input spot. All right, obviously you can see we're in the back of the controller cabinet. Sorry it's loud, got the fans going, obviously. So these are the two boards that we're most interested in. This is the input board, this is where our alarm signal will go, and this is the output board. This is what will control the mist motor, right? Whichever one of these output it is, when we push the button, it will trigger and turn the motor on for the mist collector. So let me zoom in here on the input board. All right, you can see along the bottom there, and I'll try to keep my hand out of the way so that it doesn't freak the camera out. But you can see if you look closer, zoom in, we've got our low air pressure alarm here, pump alarm, ATC alarm, lube, oil low alarm, door open, whatnot, right? So if you see this, if you look up here, this is 0 to 15, and this board is 0 to 15. Because I got it zoomed out, so you're zoomed in, so you can't see the end of the board. But they're identical boards, and they're twinned together. So how you look at this is 0 through 15, and then this 0 is going to be 16. And then 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, right? And you can see 23 here is our chip alarm, 22, which is open, right there, which is number 6 on this second board. That's input number 22. So that's where our alarm lead's gonna go from our relay, well, actually it's the contactor circuit breaker assembly, right? So yeah, that's all there is to that, right? And let me get this reset up, and we'll do the output since we've got this going right here. So, All right, so switching over to handheld here just to make this easier. So the button that we're going to use to turn the mist collector on and off is the APF button. Now what that stands for is automatic power function. Normally that's used to shut the machine down at the end of the program. If you turn it on when it sees an M30, shuts the program down or shuts the machine down at the end of the program, so you can, you know, shut it down in the middle of the night instead of leaving it on overnight if you were doing some sort of long operation. Since that's not part of the SYIL Syntec controller, we are going to hijack this button to use for our mist collector. So there's a couple of ways to determine which output this is, and I'll show you them. I'll show you both of those. So back here at the controller, you can go settings, PLC status, and we want outputs, not inputs, so we just hit the IO button that switch to outputs. So then you can just cycle this button on and off and look to see where it is. So you can see up there, first row is 0, so that's going to be output number 13. If you see that other one tripping to the right there, all that does is turn the light on for this button. So that's the first way of doing it. Now let me get the camera reset in the back and I'll show you the second way of doing it. All right, you see we're at the back of the cabinet and we're zeroed in on our output board. Now this is simple. This is 0, this is 15. We know from our input-output screen that it was number 13, which is this one right here. It's just simply 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way across to 15, and that's 13, right? So that's pretty easy. So you can see there's our terminal that we'll use to control the motor, or actually control the contactor, which then will control the motor. So the other way of doing this, since we know it's going to be an output, if we didn't want to look at the input-output screen, you can just simply toggle that button on and off and look to see which one here it is. So let me do that now. All right, you saw that I was toggling it on and off a couple of times. You can see that the LED for 13 is lit up, so then you know, okay, easy. That's the output that we're going to use. So that's, like I said, both of those are pretty easy. You can just look at the output screen, or you can come back here, flip the light on a couple of times, you know, turn it on, come back, look, turn it off, whatever, and you'll be good to go. So the only other thing, now that we have those set, we can actually start with some of the installation. I mean, you could do this at different points, but I chose to do it first, so we had those set. So we know our inputs and we know our outputs. The next step is going to be mounting the alarm and the contactor assembly in the cabinet. So let me zoom out here. Let's see if I can zoom out far enough. Well, here, let me reposition. I'll be right back in a second. So you can see in this picture from Chuck's install document that on their machine, they had to add a DIN rail and mount their contactors for the chip conveyor and the mist collector to the right-hand side of the cabinet. You may have an open spot, I have an open spot, you may not, so you may have to do, you know, something similar to what Chuck did. And in the document, he lists where you can purchase everything that he used to install his stuff, right? So as you can see here, I have a nice open spot for this to fit in. It's going to be mounted right there. You can see in the back that it's got a spring load. You clip that on the top of the rail first and then lock it into the bottom with those. So this is going to be the simplest thing you do in the whole setup, right? There you go, locked in place. And then, right, let's bring these up out of the way. This wire, we can kind of go over those real quick here. This wire goes to, that's going to go to our output that's going to turn the motor on and off that we just talked about. These go to 380. And then this one down here, which you can't see very good, that goes to the alarm. So let me get this reset. We'll get these covers off and we'll route all these wires. All right guys, so I got the covers off of the
cable tracks here. Separated the wires. That's our power wire. These are the ones that are going off the bottom. We'll work on those next. This is the oil mist. This is the control wire. This is what turns the motor on to the mist collector, right? And then remember, we're at D13, which is right over here. So we're gonna just feed this in here. Then we'll run the cable. Hopefully you can see this. It's hard working around this camera. All right, got her up there. There. And we'll spin the elbow around so we can see it. Nice and neat. And then just run this cable. All right, we're gonna run it up here. Should be trimming these, but I'm not gonna right now anyways. There is a mess of cables in here. I really need to do some cleanup of this back here. So that's it for that one, and we can actually, sorry about that, actually put this back on, put this cover back on, because we're not going to need to be in here anymore. Oh, are you kidding me? All right. So then the next one I want to hook up is the alarm, right? So that's going up here to 22. Oh, Mr. Alarm, outstanding. And then since we got a lot of extra room in this one, we are going to tuck a lot of this cable into there. All right, let's put the cover on that. All right, so I think the next we'll do the power off the top. Now I'm gonna stop the video here and reposition. It's really gonna be difficult to look in, to see down there while I'm doing it with this transformer in the way, so we'll see how it goes. All right, guys, as you can see, it's all back together. I really couldn't get any video of wiring up the power wires. There's just no room. I tried and all you could see was my arms. So going into the contactor, right, here's your hot wires. And they go down here, L1, L2, and L3, and that's the 3 wires, right? And then we have wire that I didn't mention. So this contactor uses 120 volts to trigger it. So we have to run a wire to the 120 volt taps. So how they get that is they take the 380, convert it to 220 with T and N, or L and N, right? And so one side of that's, being single phase, one side is 120. So I just used, move this camera a lot. I just used the N, or L instead of N to get my 120 over here. So I didn't mention that before, but yeah, that's a lot of these are 24 volt, but this contactor, obviously it needs 120 to trigger it. And then the other thing is, when I mentioned in the opening, I don't have a spot for the square connector. So the newer machines have more openings. I could run it through here, using a cable, cable seal and nut. However, I'm planning on bringing it in through here, and I'll show you when we get up on top, and then just running it down to the bottom side of this connector, or a contactor, I'm sorry. Right, in, out, circuit breaker in the middle with the alarm. So with that, I think we're done back here for now. Obviously, we'll, you know, maybe mounting this before hooking those lower wires up. Might not have been, you know, but, you know, it just pops right off, right? You push down and pull out and it'll pop right off. Or you can get in there sometimes and lift that spring, but it's easier just to push it down. So, all right, with that, we'll move on to the next step. All right, so you can see, obviously, we're at the top of the machine. So my original plan was to take that panel off and, you know, drill it on the bench. But I don't know, that seems like an awful lot of work. And isn't that why they make cordless drills? So you can just get up and do stuff like this. So I decided to just lay the template out here and I'm gonna drill it right on the machine. And, you know, if chips get inside, what's that gonna matter, right? So we'll give it a shot anyways. I don't think it'll be too bad. And like I was saying before, I think I'm gonna run the wires in right here. We'll just get another one of those connectors. And in fact, I think I have one left over from, I think that's an air line, but I'll punch another hole in there, run the wires in through that. But first we'll get this drilled. I'm gonna use my snap punch here, mark them, and then we'll see how it goes. I'll set the camera up so you guys can watch. Maybe that's a bad idea, I don't know, we'll know in a minute. All right, well, we got them all drilled. I don't know if it was easy or not doing that hole saw with a cordless drill. That 6-inch was, well, it was a lot of fun. I didn't get much video of it, so I didn't include it. I'm sure it would have been pretty comical, especially a couple of times where it grabbed and about threw me off the ladder, but we made it through, and we did set the mist collector up here, and it does fit, so that's good. The next step probably will be, I think, doing the hole back here for the wire. We'll just have to see. I don't know, maybe we'll set it in there, but it might be easy without there. Give me more access back to this spot. So, all right, well, we'll guess we've wrapped this up. On to the next step. All right, well, this should be pretty simple, I hope. Let's see here. Don't know why it's sticking up on that back side a little bit. There we go. I guess you just got to get it in the right position. So, I guess that's it. Everything else is done from underneath. So we'll get repositioned and move over to that. Well, all right, here we go. Should be pretty simple. So we got a plastic washer and a lock nut that's got to go on there. All right, I wanted to show you this real quick. So this is the cable that's going to the motor. I ran it through that hole. I got a cable gland on order for this. I changed my mind on, you know, running the one directly from the motor and not having a disconnect. I thought that at some point maybe you'd want to disconnect it to take it off to clean it or something. So I've got a aircraft style screw together connector coming along with a cable gland, you know, to seal up that hole. But I'm going to go ahead and hook it up temporarily here. Those should be here in the next day or two, right? So this is coming from the motor, essentially. Got a ground to the ground, and then here's our 3 motor leads to the bottom of the breaker, right? Contactor, breaker, alarm. And they're in the back. So to take these off, to access the screws, you can see them back in there. But so then we'll just pop this back in there, and we'll be good to go to test it. So that'll be the next. I might run some wires and show you some of that. I got to run the wire across the top, so I'll probably show you how I do that, and then we'll test it. All right, here's the final install. You can see the cable running to the other side of the cabinet over there. Left just enough cable so you can lift that motor assembly off if you need to clean the filters or change them out or whatever. So, all right, I'll show you the rest of it here. So that's what I ended up going with. Those are marine style connectors. Since I didn't have the square, didn't feel like cutting and filing one in, so they did have an open spot there, a round spot, so it was easy to just, you know, pop it in there. I mean, I guess you can't see it. You just barely see it back there, but this is the inside of the cabinet. With everything run, routed, best it's gonna be, I guess. So, yeah, not too bad. Still looks pretty clean in here. All right, let's give her a test run here. Well, let's get some coolant going and see what it does. All right, well, we got the coolant just blasting out of face melt, so that should make a lot of mist. Clear, but there we go. All right, here we go with one of them with it running. You can see it's pretty well balanced. Not hardly any vibration whatsoever. I mean, it does make some noise, but you know, you're in a shop environment. It's certainly a lot. I'd rather take a little bit of noise than breathe in the fumes from all that, you know, mist coolant or flood coolant. So, all right, with that, that's it. Hope you guys like it. Hopefully it helps if you decide to install one.